Work hard for what you want in life.
You work hard for what you want in life.
That your word is your bond, that you do what you say you're gonna do.
That your word is your bond, and you do what you say.
That you treat people with dignity and respect.
That you treat people with respect.
Reach of your dreams and your willingness to work hard.
The strength of your dreams and your willingness to work for them.
Work hard,
work hard,
work hard,
work hard,
work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard.
Hey guys, I'm Tatum, and welcome to another episode of the Black Girl Boss Podcast. I'm going to be doing this episode solo today. Milan had other obligations, but I wanted to make sure that we still got you guys an excellent episode to jumpstart your week. So as I was thinking about what to talk about this week, what really kept standing out to me was diamonds. Like I kept thinking about diamonds, how diamonds are made. So I did a little bit of research, and in my research, I figured out exactly why I needed to talk about this. So we all know that diamonds are beautiful. They are expensive. They're precious. They're held in high regard. If you go into a jewelry store, you're not going to find the diamonds out for you to just be picking up and putting on your finger and dirtying up and touching and all of that stuff. They are valued. And so while I was doing some research, I came across this, and I want to read this to you before I go into detail. It says, as we know, diamonds are created under pressure. They're not naturally pure or perfect. An uncut, rough diamond undergoes intense heat and pressure before it finally turns into the precious piece of rock that we adorn. It is now unique. It dazzles and is so strong that it's nearly impossible to break one. And I really wanted to talk about this because a lot of times when it comes to entrepreneurship, we get advice from people who are already at that diamond stage, right? And we forget about that heat and that pressure that it took to get there. Or people will talk about it, but it's from the standstill of looking in the past. So it's hard to get that insight of what it's like while you're in it. And I wanted to talk about this because this is the exact reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because I wanted to expose a side of entrepreneurship that's overlooked. We in this area of social media, we see all these beautifully constructed pictures and photos and stock images, etc., of all of these pretty things that we don't focus enough on the journey that it took to get there. And as women, we're often taught to put on a face. Our faces are perfectly contoured, beat to no ends, like we are beautiful. Hair is laid, outfits are nice. But there's a lot of stuff that we're going through that we don't really deal with because we feel like we have to be perfect or we have to be this diamond when we present ourselves to the world. So I wanted to offer myself up as that person of transparency throughout my entrepreneurship journey, because God has already showed me who I'm going to be, who I'm going to become, and the things that I'm going to do in this world. So it's important for me to do things like turn on the microphone or the camera in very difficult times so that I can show people and be that person that you can identify with when you're in that intense heat and pressure. So today's episode, I'm probably going to title it Pressure Makes Diamonds. And I want to focus on the pressure for the point of this show. I thought, I'm going to start from the beginning for you guys who may not know my full story, but my story in my life has all been about heat and pressure, right? I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. I grew up in a 2-parent household, middle class. But what happened in my household was there's a lot of intense moments. My father was very abusive. Not physically abusive towards me, more so of emotionally and verbally abusive. My mother was a battered woman, so there were a lot of issues that I had with her based off of how she was, based off of what she's gone through. So it was a very toxic environment for me, and it required me to grow up relatively quickly. So now as a woman, and as I grew up, I was always thinking, after going through those things, that, okay, I'm not going to have to go through those things again. It's in the past. I'm going to use it as my testimony. But new levels, new devils is like some real stuff. And every aspect of my journey thus far have been a lot of valuable lessons. But the way I've been able to overcome every single stage of my life thus far is because of the work that I did. And so you guys hear me talk about all the time about, you're not going to be successful in your business if you don't take care of those dark areas of your life. And the reason why I'm starting from way back when with y'all, because I want you to understand how I handled those things is a direct correlation with how I handle what's going on in my business right now. So back then, after going through this toxic situation as a teenager and having to take care of myself at a young age and dealing with all the emotional baggage and the bad decisions that I made as a result of my upbringing, I chose to shift my focus from what I was going through to how I could take control of my life. And the way that I took control of my life was I focused on building up Tatum. So me being this broken, insecure young woman, she had to get fixed in order for me to even be able to handle the stuff that I'm going through right now, or the things that I face daily on my entrepreneurial journey. So what that looked like for me was having very difficult conversations. And I want to talk about this because a lot of you guys are women who never dealt with the things that happened in your childhood. And if you never deal with those things that happen in your childhood, you're never going to reach the level of success that you want. And to me, success is way more than the material things. Success is just freedom, mental freedom, and just peace of mind. And that's something that a lot of women just don't have. And we don't have it because we don't face these tough things. We sweep everything under the rug, but as long as you keep sweeping things under the rug, eventually you're going to trip on it and fall flat on your face. So you really, really have to deal with those things. So when I began to shift my attitude from rebelling because of my not knowing how to deal with my emotions to focusing on myself, things just started to change. I focused on building my relationship up with myself and with my parents, the people who are the hardest to face, especially when you go through things as a kid. That meant me having to have difficult conversations with them individually about how they affected me. Now, despite how these conversations ended, that was liberating for me. And that was enough to allow me to keep putting myself and what I wanted for my life first. And one thing that I've always wanted for my life is just peace of mind, the freedom to be able to do what God called me to do and to be who God called me to be in this world. And I'm a firm believer, again, I never would have gotten to that place or a place of just peace that I have now if I didn't face those things. So fast forward to my entrepreneurial journey, things never get easy. You guys, there's always going to be adversity, especially as an entrepreneur. When you decide to be an entrepreneur, despite all that cute stuff and how popular it is and how trendy it is to be a boss these days, in order to be a real boss, you got to take responsibility for your life and the things that you do. You can't just say, I'm going to start this business and you think that you're going to be successful because you're applying lessons from everybody else's life to yours. You have to pay attention and be cognizant and present on your own journey, because that's where the gems that you'll need to get to that next level are going to be. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So on my entrepreneurial journey, it's been a mental battle. So for y'all who have started your businesses already, y'all understand when you're at a job and you're starting a business, especially one that's a heart-centered business or something that you're extremely passionate about, it's tough. You're at work being put in a box while you're spending your time outside of work fighting to get out that box. It's suffocating. You're spending 40 hours a week of your life building somebody else's dream when all you want to do is live your own. Like it's a struggle. And then in the midst of that, you're trying to make sure you maintain your relationships, make sure you maintain your friendships, making sure that you still have time for yourself as well. It's a lot. But for y'all that are still in that place, understand that how you handle still being at a 9-to-5 and growing your business is going to be the foundation for how you handle being self-employed. And I didn't understand this fully until I took my leap of faith and became self-employed. I mean, it's been at this point, it's been a little over a month for me being self-employed, and the lessons that I've learned and the amount of mental just strength that it takes to go through day to day, it's a lot. And so the reason why I feel like I'm able to handle things now and to be mature and take one day at a time and make the best decisions for my life and for my business is because I unpacked all of my baggage and my stuff all those years ago. Because I had those tough conversations all those years ago, because I picked the rug up off of what I was sweeping under it, and I decided to deal with it, is the reason why I'm equipped to handle the things that I'm going through now in business and the things that are going to come. Nobody's immune to struggle. It's all how much of a boss you are is how you handle it. Are you going to be that diamond? Are you going to allow that pressure to mold you, to make you shiny, to add value to you? Are you going to allow that intense heat and pressure to sculpt you into that amazing, successful woman that you want to be? Or are you going to allow it to destroy you or to keep you stagnant? That's a decision that you have to make for yourself and for your business, because you will never be truly, fully successful. You will never reach all of the things that you're supposed to reach in your life if you don't handle those uncomfortable situations. And I see it all the time. There are entrepreneurs that I know who are just great, super productive. They get things done. They're excited about their future. They invest in themselves. But when nobody is looking, when the social media is off, when the cameras are down, when it's just them and themselves, they can't handle it. You know, the mental pressure of just being with themselves, they can't handle. And if you can't handle those things, or if you don't face or unpack that baggage that you've been carrying around your whole life, you're not going to be able to even enjoy the success that you do have. So fast forward for me, when I took my leap of faith, this last month has just been such an intense learning experience for me. Y'all have heard me talk about it before. When I first left my job, when I first put in my notice, I said that I understood that I needed to create better habits. And so I started on a new schedule of waking up at 5 a.m., going to the gym, doing everything that I needed to do to create more disciplined habits, right? So that was all great. You know, I was able to get a lot accomplished. Everything was fine. And now being a full-time entrepreneur, it's a whole new level of pressure. Like the weight that I talk about that's on your shoulders of being at a 9-to-5 and trying to grow a business. Imagine adding a whole nother weight on top of that. That's what it's like when you first take your leap of faith. And people could tell you all you want, like you need to make sure that you have this amount of money before you leave your job, or you need to make sure that you have these revenue streams before you leave your job. Like everybody can stand from a position that's not with you and tell you what you need to do before you leave your job so you don't deal with these things. But let's be clear, you're going to deal with these things. I don't care how much money you have saved. When your livelihood depends on everything that you do every single day, that's a different beast. I don't care how many clients you have. If you have, let's say you have 10 clients before you leave your job, you're making, let's say you're making $10,000 a month from those 10 clients that you have. Those contracts are going to end. So that pressure isn't alleviated because it's not about the next 6 months. Let's say they're 6-month clients. It's not about the next 6 months. It's about sustaining a lifestyle based off of this business. It's about building a business that you don't have to grind in every single day if that's what you want to do. But that pressure is going to be on you no matter what. So I have nothing against those people who talk about what you need to do as far in your business to be prepared to take your leap of faith. My purpose in life is to help other people live better lives, right? And I couldn't be who I am as a coach, as a mentor, as a woman without challenging everybody to deal with that baggage that they carry around every day. You won't be able to sustain that pressure if you don't take some of it that you already got off. So aside from the business strategy, focus on what can you unpack before you take your leap of faith. Because I couldn't imagine right now if I was still insecure, if I still had daddy issues, if I still couldn't even look at myself in the mirror, I would not be able to handle the pressure of being self-employed at all. So I'm so grateful that I was mature enough and that I had people praying for me to where I was able to handle those emotional things before even getting into this entrepreneurial journey. Even now, I have a situation going on with my family where my father is going to be incarcerated soon. That's something else on top of me trying to grow this business, but that's not even something that affects me every day because I am emotionally intelligent enough to deal with how I feel about things. I've had those difficult conversations. I can look them in the face and show my disappointment, but still be mature enough to show my love and support as well. And to be able to still pray for somebody else, no matter how bad they've hurt me. I can't stress to y'all enough how liberating that is. And I think for you guys who are who have some things that's going on inside of you, some things from your childhood, some things from past relationships, some things from past business partners, some past failed businesses that weigh on you every single day. I really challenge you to face those things because the amount of the feeling that you get from just being liberated and emancipated from that baggage is indescribable. And I want you guys and everybody that I work with to be able to experience not only success in their business, but to be able to enjoy it and to just enjoy success in your life, to wake up every day, to be able to look into the mirror and love yourself and love what you've been able to do is just an amazing, amazing feeling. And something else that I wanted to bring up while I'm talking to you guys about mental strength is that if you're not a Christian, I apologize, but I am unapologetically a Christian and unapologetically imperfect as well. And I can't stress to you enough how important it is to have God as your business partner. And I talked about this before a little bit on the last episode. Something that God has been doing in me lately has been interesting. I was trying to find the best word. I think the best word for that is interesting. And the best way to describe that is I remember my mother sent me a sermon recently. And so I watched it and the pastor was talking about how you hear people talking about harvest seasons. And so you hear about them preparing the soil, planting the seed, and then reaping the harvest. But it's this delicate thing that happens in between that. And that's where we all are in our entrepreneurial journey. We're that seed that's in the soil that has no idea when that harvest is coming. I don't care how much strategy you have in your business. I don't care how many keys to success you've learned that you're applying every day, your life was already planned out before you got up in here. So at the end of the day, what's ultimately going to happen is going to be in God's timing, and God's timing is perfect. I don't even want to think about how many things that I thought I wanted at one point, and I'm so grateful it didn't happen, because at this point I love God's timing, because sometimes I be tripping about what I want. So anyway, if you're that seed in the soil, you don't know when the harvest is coming, but you just see yourself changing, right? Like when that seed, and I'm so glad she sent me this, when you're that seed inside the soil, you start moving, like you start changing shape, you start preparing for that harvest. You still don't know when it's going to come. All of these things are changing, and all of these things are getting shaken up inside of you. But you don't know when that harvest is coming. Like that's to me, that's the biggest lesson in it. You don't know when that harvest is coming. So now you have to figure out, what do I do in this seed stage of my entrepreneurial journey? I'm grinding every single day. I'm waking up, I'm doing this, I invested in this, I'm taking this class. Like, when is that coming? And the answer to that is nobody knows but God. And God's timing is perfect. And the only way to cope while you're in that seed stage is to engulf yourself in Him and what He says. Because one of my favorite scriptures, and I'm going to Google it right now as I'm talking, but one of my favorite scriptures is in Deuteronomy. And it talks about, and I'm paraphrasing, and it's something I keep to my mind, but it talks about how your success and your wealth is promised to you because of the sacrifices that people long before us have made. And so you have to understand that while you're in that seed phase, you have to understand that God already said that you're going to be successful and you're going to be wealthy. And you just have to, and if you don't know Him, and if you don't know what the word says, you can really get overwhelmed, just be checked out, doubting every single thing about yourself while you're in this delicate seed phase. So I actually found it. The scripture is Deuteronomy 8:18, and it says, "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors as it is today." And what that means to me is, in this seed phase, and if you guys in this seed phase, I don't care if you're self-employed, I don't care if you have a 9-to-5, I don't really care where you are right now. This is something that you really have to keep to the forefront of your mind. This is something that we can all apply to our journey. And this is why faith is so important. And we talk about God so passively these days, just because of, the stuff with religion has been so jacked up as of late, as far as like the politics of churches and religious leaders being corrupt and all of these different things, as far as faith or religion goes, has been so crazy as of late. But we recognize the importance of God. A lot of us recognize how important our faith is, but we allow God to just be like that passive person that we talk about, like the person that we talk about all the time, but we don't really know for real. Like we be like, yeah, because God said that yada, yada, yada. And I know, man, whatever is going to happen in God's timing, but you don't really know Him. And this is something I had to be real with about myself, because in this seed phase for me, all I have is God. Like my business, my life is a reflection of I'm living in my purpose. So this ain't about me. This is about who He called me to be and the things that He wants me to do in this world and the vision that He gave me for what my life is supposed to be. So I have to get to know Him because He got my answers, but with that, again, comes mental strength, because God may tell you to do some things that you ain't really trying to do, like address those dark areas in your life. God has told me as I'm learning to get more disciplined in spending time, God has told me things that I really didn't want to do. He's told me to call people that I really didn't want to call, but I know I'm going to be blessed because of my obedience. And I'm grateful that I have people in my life who not only speak to the winner in me, but they speak to the woman of God in me. And I'm so grateful to have people like that in my life. And I have not always had people like that in my life. Let's be clear. I've had no one a lot of times in my life. But even reflecting back to those moments, God has always been there for me. And I'm just seeing now what he's doing with me before I get that level of success that's right there. Like before I get that breakthrough, I have to make some adjustments in the things that I do, the things that I may want. I have to check to make sure that these are the things that God wants me to do. That's a part of preparation. When it comes to taking your leap of faith or starting your business, a part of your preparation is checking with the source to verify that that's what you want to do. There are so many people who I've talked to, and I met a guy recently at an event, and he was saying how he was an entrepreneur. He made all of this money. He was so successful, but he wasn't right. And by what he mean by he wasn't right was he wasn't doing right by people. He didn't know God. He was doing what he wanted to do. He was comparing himself to others and trying to emulate their success. And he was a millionaire. He was so seemingly successful, right? And then he lost everything. Everything is gone. Then what? Because when you hit rock bottom, you have nobody else to turn to but God. And that's somewhere I know I never want to be. If I could mitigate that, by getting my stuff together now and just taking it one day at a time to strengthen my faith and to relearn things and to get over any hurts that I may have had from people of religious power, that's just what I got to do, because I don't want to get all of this success and to make the mistake of thinking that it's because of me and then I lose it. Like my success is only going to be because of God. And I know that's what God is doing in me right now. He's humbling me and putting me in a position to where all I have is faith. And so I know that when I get that success that's coming to me, I'm not going to be talking to y'all from a place of, I'm self-made. I will never be self-made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made by God, period. And the same thing for you guys. And that's one of the biggest things I want to leave y'all with today. If you don't have a relationship with God, it's going to be so necessary on your entrepreneurial journey and just for your life, period. It's going to be so necessary. And I know a lot of us have been hurt by the church, by people who are people of faith. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff when it comes to people of faith that have me side-eyeing the mess out of them. But I'm just urging everybody who's listening to me to get to know God for yourself, because the foundation that you're building right now in your entrepreneurial journey is going to be so important. And the strength that you're going to need to get from point A to point B is in Him. And I'm realizing that now, which is why I want to talk about it and not ever exalt myself in a way to where y'all think that I got the keys to everything, because you have to recognize that God has your specific blueprint. Coaches are important. Like I may have some great strategies for you to help get you to the next level in your business, some great strategies for you to be more strategic about your day to day. But as far as what you need to do specifically as an individual to get the success that you want, you have to have a relationship with God. And as far as getting that mental strength to be able to deal with all of the pressure, to be able to eventually become that diamond, you have to have a relationship with God. He has to be your business partner. So I ain't gonna take y'all to church no more. Y'all probably she preaching today. I know, but moving on, the last thing I wanted to cover before I hop off of here today is be strategic in everything that you do. Everything. Don't get so caught up in the pressures that you forget to use strategy. That's something that I had to realize for myself. Stop getting caught up in what you see people do, or you see this person making so much money in their business to where you're like, I just need to do what they're doing so I can be successful, or so I can make this money. Be strategic in the little things. Your success is just an accumulation of small wins. So make sure you focus your day to day on how to strategically reach small wins. And those will again accumulate, like I said, to your next level of success. So for example, if you're having a hard time balancing everything that you have going on, be strategic about how you prioritize. If you have a struggle creating content, be strategic in how you create content. If I transcribe this podcast, I can do a little bit of edits and have a blog post. If I video recorded myself while I was recording this podcast, then I have video that I can chop up into small bits and use as content. That's 2-3 different forms of content just by me doing one thing. So that's how you have to think in your entrepreneurial life. You have to boss up, and that means being strategic. So when it comes back to that scheduling, what is your system to getting things done every day? Forget the excuses, forget the pressure, forget the how you feel about all that you have going on. Forget the pity party. Let's focus on the strategy. How can you maximize the hours that you have in a day? Do you need to wake up a little bit earlier? Do you need to tell your friends, all right, we're going to only kiki on Tuesdays? Do you need to remove yourself from your house if you feel like working in your business from home get you distracted? How can you be strategic? As an entrepreneur, we're problem solvers. So every problem that you're having, be strategic about solving that problem and making sure that you don't face it again. So I know this whole episode was literally me just talking, but I wanted to make it like that because I wanted to be as authentic as possible in this episode and really be transparent about things that I deal with, lessons that I learned, things that God is really showing me and how God is really using me right now. And I pray that something that I said today resonated with someone who needed to hear it. And I actually prayed before I even got on here because I knew that I didn't want to do an episode to where I wrote down like, here's 5 points and we'll talk about those points. I didn't want to do an episode like that. I wanted to do an episode that was very raw, unrehearsed, honest, and off the cuff. And so, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know how you like it. Follow me on Instagram at Tatum Temia, TatumTemia. Visit us on the web at www.blackgirlbosses.com. Follow the podcast on Instagram at blackgirlbosses. Follow Milan at the Milan Mobley. And make sure you get your tickets for our live show. We would love to see you guys in DC. I would love to meet y'all in person. We have so many people that support this show, and I'm forever grateful that y'all have let us into your lives the way that you have, listening to us every single week. So definitely come out to the show. I would love to see you, give you a hug, and just thank you for your support. And if you guys have any questions for me, if you want to get back to the serious business and y'all tired of me being all emo, then definitely hit me up. Yeah, that's it. See you guys.